Okay. All right. So we got 15 people now. It looks like. Actually, no, that's my screen. That's the 15th person. But anyway. Okay. So very nice to meet all of you. As Svit said briefly there, my name is Pontus Mahler. I'll go into more detail in a bit about who exactly I am. But today we're here to kind of discuss global top round and what we're up to, what it is that we actually help developers with, and why we might or might not be relevant for you. So I'm going to dig right into it. So basically, the background of our company is that we've been running for about 5 years now. We are a game investment accelerator, which means that we invest in companies, a few of them per year. So we've been doing it for 5 years with over 47 investments in 27 countries. We actually have a French investment already in Bordeaux called Studio Black Flag, which was our first ever one in France last year. I guess it's been a year now, which we're very happy with. And of course, we're continuously looking for new studios. We don't technically care about what country you're from. We can basically invest globally. We don't have any restrictions other than China, because China doesn't like foreign money. That's just the way it is. But generally, we do investments all over the world, and we do all types of genres. Now, I saw someone in here had a VR in their name, and we don't really do VR. We can, but it has to be really, really good. So generally, we have tried investing in VR before. We tried investing in AR, and it just hasn't been very good for us, in all honesty. So if it is an AR or a VR project, it's normally at the bottom of our list. We'll still review it, but it will honestly be harder. We're a very transparent company, so you won't hear any bullshit from me at any point in any time. It will always be straight up what you may or may not want to hear. We are originally Korean. I'm of course not Korean, as you may see on with my current outlook here. But yeah, we're founded by Koreans that come from Naver and Samsung, and a VC fund called NHN Entertainment is one of the biggest companies in Korea. And the two founders basically got together back in 2017 to build what we have today. So what we have today is a holding company called GXC. This company holds our investor called Global Top Round, and our second company called G Round, or Game Round, which is something I'm going to mention very briefly at the end, because today we're here to talk about Global Top Round. Now, again, I told you how many investments we have. I told you what countries. I told you what genres. So what makes us different from other accelerators? Now, for us, we are actually not an accelerator. We're actually not an investor. I would actually classify us as a business partner. I'm going to dig into more details as to why that is. Because for me, most accelerators are scams. That's the sad reality. You'll see a bunch of really fancy names and fancy mentors, and this guy has 20 years experience, launched this game, but then when you actually sign up to the accelerator and you start working with them, they're not even part of the company, or you get like 1 hour of free time in return for losing a bunch of rev share or equity or whatever the accelerator has. So we don't do any crap like that. All of our members you can see on our website, and if you go on our website and you check the team section, you probably don't recognize any of us. And that's completely fine by us, because we're not going to sit here and pretend we have 33 people from Activision Blizzard that is going to help you. We are very good at what we do. We've been in this industry for a very long time, but we're not Blizzard employees or have super fancy resumes in the gaming industry like some of these other accelerators. But the difference is that we actually do the work. And that is something that is very sad in the accelerator industry. So when we started this, it was the original founder. His name is Danny Wu, the first founder of the company. He was actually part of a big VC fund. And he realized that in the startup section, especially in gaming, so many startups get taken advantage of. They don't know their real value. They don't know their valuation. They don't know how to sell. They sign bad publisher sheets. And he was kind of part of that bad side. So he basically said, I don't want to be on this side anymore. He doesn't want to be on the corporate side. He'd rather be on the startup side to help them understand what to sign and what not to sign. So with that, Global Top Round was born. An accelerator that is going to do something much different. We're not only going to invest a little bit of money and have one call a week. We're actually going to be a big part of the company. Before I dig into that, let's talk about how we actually find our companies. So again, we've been doing it for 5 years. This is going to mark the sixth year in business. And what we do is Of course, events like anyone else. We go to offline events, we go to digital events. We have our own little program, which I'm going to talk about after this tech in a little bit of detail. And then we work very closely with governments. So for example, we're friends with the Bordeaux government in France. We just finished a program with the Malaysian government. We work with Quebec in Canada, and so forth. The way we work with them is that we come into the country for a while, we help educate some of the startups, and in return, we keep getting funneled, a bunch of companies from that region every single year, so that you guys know who we are and you can apply to us. This is our first time doing it with these guys, so this is like an introduction, right? Which is why I'm going to explain everything from the ground up, so that you know exactly how we work. Now, we do a lot of speaker sessions, a lot of panel sessions. You might have seen me everywhere, really. I've kind of been everywhere. If you haven't, it's okay. I mean, there's tons of speakers out there, so no harm, no foul. But generally, we do something, we don't really market ourselves. We've actually spent $0 in marketing, excluding this year because it's digital, so we kind of had to. We do everything for face-to-face. That's kind of the people we are. We like for you to meet us. We would like for you to ask us personal questions. We'd like for you to have a beer with us. We're people. We're people. We work around a lot of different kind of types and personalities, and we're going to be a huge part of you. So it's important that you like me and I like you. If we don't, let's just not do business. It's very simple. So we've done a lot of speaker sessions on things that have nothing to do with our company. Because if you get to know me as a person, you might respect my company more, because I'm going to be part of your industry and I'm going to be part of you. And for that, I think knowing me personally is better than me spending a bunch of money on ads and you see a really cool landing page and you're like, oh, that sounds amazing. We don't really like that. We let the work speak for itself. So wrapping all of this up, that kind of gives us, in the beginning, about 100 applicants per year, so 100 startups applying to us. But now that we've grown a lot, we're getting more than 300 startups every single year applying to our program from over 40 different countries. So it's a very, very competitive year from the last 3 years, I would say, but especially this year, super competitive, super high quality, which we're, of course, very excited about. But, for the companies, they might be thinking, oh, I don't have a big chance. But good products get signed. That's the reality, guys. All this you hear about, my game didn't get signed because X or Y, I didn't have the right connections, I didn't have that. It's bullshit. Sorry. Like, if your game is good, it gets signed, period. That's how this industry works. If it doesn't get signed, even if you have a good game, it's because you don't have the networking capabilities or you don't have a good pitch deck to explain what you're building, or your game build itself in its early stage isn't good enough. All of those things, yes, sure. That might be a reason why you're not getting signed. But the actual product always speaks above all. That's always the major thing. So if you have a good game, trust me, it gets signed. If you can put it in front of people, you will get it signed. Now, once we have these 300 companies, we take a look at, your website, your pitch deck, and any other material that you have for us. We take a look at all of it, and then we take it down to the top 50. Now, we would love to play 300 games within 2 weeks, but it's kind of impossible, which is why we take it down to the top 50. So if you make it into the top 50, we play all of your games, at least 30 minutes per game, and we have our own ranking system where every single staff member gets to rate it, and then we have external advisors and publishers that actually help us play it as well, to help us choose the ultimate top 20, as you can see on my slide here. Now, what does top 20 mean? Top 20, in a nutshell, kind of means that you have a 50% chance of getting an investment and working with us. Because out of these 20 companies, 10 will receive an investment. So we take the top 20 that we think are the best studios we can find in that year, and we fly you guys out. So we pay for your flight, we pay for your hotel, and we invite you to an offline conference. This year, it was supposed to be in Malta. We just canceled it last week for obvious reason with COVID. And next year, it's probably going to be in Finland or somewhere in Scandinavia. But the event itself is very simple. It's a 2-day event where the first day you're going to be pitching on stage. You only get 7 minutes. That's it. Of course, we've already seen your pitch before the event. Of course, we've already played it before the event, but our partners haven't. So other than, just us actually attending, we're going to have all of our publishing and investment partners there as well. So between 30 and 60 investors and publishers will be attending the event. The goal is not for them to sign you at that event or within a month or within 2. It's for them to meet you in person. So, 6 months later or 12 months later, when you have a better product, then, they'll be like, wow, look at how much they improved since Malta. That's amazing, And now your whole pitch kind of makes more sense, right? Because you come up on stage and you pitch a roadmap, and then you need to deliver on the roadmap. So if you do, the publishers will be like, wow, okay, these guys hold their word, and there's a much higher chance that you'll get signed. And since it's such a private event, they don't have 500 business cards like when they go to GDC. They have only 20. So even if we don't end up investing in you, even if you're not a top 10, there's still a high chance that you get a deal signed. And it has happened several years in the past. Actually, most recently, 6 months ago, one of our studios from last year that we didn't pick got signed. So, we don't always pick the best studios. We pick the ones that we think has the most commercial success. So second day is a demo day. That means that every attendee, including you and your co-partners, so 2 people per studio will attend the event, will get to play everyone's games and rank it as well. So you'll pick your top 3 games, and we're going to see what's the general people's opinion throughout this event. Like, what's the best game? What do they think will have the most success? The actual final decision is not a democracy. It's me and 3 other people. So we are 4 in the management team that will actually pick them. But every year, the top 5 pretty much gets decided from the votes because it's very obvious, which games are the best. And that's been the case for the last 5 years. But we kind of like to involve every attendee, right? Like, it's cool for you to be able to vote on what other studio do you think that we should invest in. And we kind of like that setup, and that's why we've been keeping it. So again, at the second day, after the demo day, we're going to announce the top 10. Now, if you're top 10, it does not yet guarantee you an investment, because we, of course, have the most important thing left, the due diligence and your documentation. That is, of course, the final step of any deal. So right after the event, within a week or 2, we're going to fly directly to you, sit down with you and your team, meet all your founders. If you're a remote team, we fly to the CEO. That's completely fine. And then on the first day, we're just going to get to know each other. So now what our French studio did, they went a little bit overboard. They took us on a wine cruise on the first day. We ended up just talking and getting drunk on Bordeaux wine. And I'm sure you guys know how good Bordeaux wine is. It's very good. And, that's something we can do. Our Bulgarian studio took us clubbing for whatever reason. And our German studio took us for a kebab. The point is that it doesn't matter what we do. The first day is not business. It's for us to get to know each other. We can't talk about anything. That's the exact purpose, because we're going to be talking to you a lot. We're going to be involved in your business. So if you don't like us, again, or we don't like you, let's not work together. Secondly, on the second day is all the due diligence, of course. So we're going to talk about your company, your burn rate. I would like for you to present your bank statements, everything that we're going to be asking anyway. And of course, it has to be certified. It doesn't have to be certified on that day in particular, but we do need to see, at least a draft one. So you can certify it a few weeks later. Now, if everything is in order, within 4 weeks, sometimes even less, you'll have the first investment in your bank. So we work very fast, depending on you, of course. If you have everything prepared, very quick. If you don't, some more time. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead of the 4th and the 5th gate here because they're not really relevant for this. But as you can see here, this is just an example of last year's qualification. So out of the 302 companies that applied, 218, submitted everything they needed to be eligible. So, all the documentation requested, the pitch decks, the game build, and everything. And it came from a total of 47 countries, which is 48, which is pretty awesome. So we've really gotten like a very global thing going. Last year, we only had 3 French studios that applied. This year, we had 18, and of which, let me just check very quickly here. Of which 3 actually made it into the top 20 of this year. So we have a very French, a good amount of French games this year, which we're very excited about because it's not a region that we've done in, only one investment so far. All right, so let's dig ahead into what we actually do for you. So now I explained the process of, how we find companies. I explained, what you have to do and what happens during and after the event. So, all right, what do we actually do now, right? So what makes us different from other accelerators is, again, we put in the work. Number 1, you will have constant access to us 24/7 on Discord. We manage all of our investments there, and you'll also have access to all of our other investments. So there's common channels where you guys can talk to each other, exchange tips, give your links, ask for employees, whatever you guys want to do, completely up to you. We have our own little community built in there. Secondly, every company, of course, has their own private channel in which we're going to talk about, general updates, publishing strategy, investment strategy, game development, and so forth. So now it comes down to the actual business side of it. Other accelerators give you advice or mentorship, or they say they're going to help you with X or Y and B. Sure, that's great to talk about that. What we actually do is that we do it for you. So we actually take over the whole business side. You will still retain all the decision making. We cannot sign on your behalf. You will always be the signee. But we do all the negotiation for you. We do all the pitching for you. We do the company planning for you, the strategy, the milestones. We build up this whole strategy for the next 6 months. After the 6 months, we do it again for an additional 6 months to basically figure out what stage are you at right now, where do we want to take you, and where do we want to end up, so that we're all aligned on, what is the future of your business. This is something that's going to last for years. Our website says 6 months acceleration program. That's kind of bullshit. We still work with our studios from 4 years ago. We actually just signed a publishing deal for our studio from 4 years ago. It's not a 6 months relationship. It's just that if we put in in writing that, hey, you're going to work with us for 5 years, then we have to work with you for 5 years. But the reality is things change all the time. Studios do well, studios don't do well, studios need our help, and so forth. So website says 6 months, but honestly, when you need us, we're always going to be there. We're part of your company. So we help you with the evaluation as well. So trying to figure out what is your company valued at? How much do we want to fundraise? And we do that strategy too. So that means that we will make sure that you always retain as much equity as possible and that we raise small amounts at a time. A lot of companies think that, okay, I need 1 million euros for my project. Let's raise the whole 1 million. But you're forgetting that, okay, well, how are you going to keep the equity for you and the founder? Why do you need to raise the whole million at a time? So for example, we could design a strategy where we raise 200 to 300K first, we build a better game, and then we come back with a much higher valuation. All of that we'll be helping you with. So basically, we're side by side with you as consultants throughout this entire period, and we invest money in you. Now, again, after 6 months of doing this, doing the strategy, working with publishers and investors and setting up milestones, we'll do another offline workshop. And at this offline workshop, it's just a way to have a good time together. It's for you to see what happened to the other 9 companies and, what's the status. And if you are ready, then we'll invite publishers and investors to this event for a one-on-one FaceTime meeting. But most of the companies are not ready in 6 months. Most of the games that we invest in have between 6 months and 18 months of development left. There is no rule, by the way, so you can have 24 months, that's fine. But most of them have 6 to 12 months, so when the workshop comes, they're not ready yet. But if you're not ready, it doesn't matter. You get to meet up with us and your other studios, share opinions, and, help each other out, what have you learned, and so forth. So what we do as well when it comes to, I mentioned that we do all the negotiations. So that means, of course, that, the actual term sheet from the publisher or even the whole contract itself, that's something that I take care of. So that's my job. Well, part of it anyway. And another thing that we do is that we try to make sure that we make the best deal possible. So I'm sure that most of you guys are thinking, if you're going to work with a publisher, not everyone does, that you're just going to sign one deal. Well, in reality is that you have to understand that, yes, gaming is not at the level of the movie industry yet. Because if you're not aware of it, the movie industry has the holding company of the movie, right? And then they sub-license the movie to every country. And then every country takes care of the marketing and the distribution and the cinemas and blah, blah, blah. Because the movie industry is there. In the gaming industry, sadly, we're not there yet. So most of the time, the developers make the mistake of signing global rights and not asking questions. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to sign this game for 200K, 50-50, whatever it is. And then you forget that no publisher has the capacity of publishing globally. Not a single one. If you weren't aware of it, Blizzard uses NetEase in China. They don't publish the games themselves. Tencent uses Koch Media, for example, for physical distribution in Europe. No publisher has global capacity. So if you're going to sign a global license deal, you better make sure that they have the right partners in each region. It's okay to sign global rights if you know who they're using in the regions that they're not capable of doing themselves. If they don't have an answer, you do not give them a global license. And again, this is something that we will help you with because we have been vetting these publishers for 5 years now. And I personally worked for Tencent and Garena for about 8 years. So I know exactly how it goes. So that's something that we will help you do as well. Strategize of where are we going to distribute, where are we going to publish the game. So we're not just going to, we're going to be equity holders in your company and we're tied to your product. So we're not just going to sign a deal to sign a deal. Let's make sure that you get what you need, but also the publisher gets what they need, because don't get me wrong, I'm talking bad about publishers here, but this is a mutual relationship. You're also entitled to make sure that the publisher is happy and that you're delivering everything that they need and the other way around. The negotiation part is the rough part. After that, you better freaking deliver. I mean, it's always a two-way relationship in the gaming industry, right? Now, something that has happened since last time is that we've now built up the G-Round platform, but I'm going to skip ahead and jump over to another presentation, so we'll skip that. But we do have the capacity of doing market research with another company now. But let's skip ahead first. So to give you some examples of partners that we work with, NetEase, Oasis Games, Tencent again, friends of mine, 505, Gamera. We work with NeoWiz, Nexon, Chorus Worldwide in Japan, Dangan in Japan, Round Zero, Playstack, GameForge, Team 17, Marvelous, Humble, all these different publishers is just here as an example. We work with more than these, but the reality is that if you go to a game event, 80% of the time you're speaking to the junior biz dev in that company, maybe the senior, but still. We know the C-levels or the management of every publisher and every VC, which means that when we pitch a game, we go to the boss. We don't go to whoever is below them. And then if they pass down the game to their biz devs after, that's totally fine. I mean, that sometimes happens. It could be too busy. The product might not be big enough. But we always go to the head chicken first. Because if you have to go for the junior person, that will be all your communication. And you have to send the email to the junior who takes it up to the board and then goes back down to the junior, goes to you. And you're in a process that takes a very long time. Our goal as your partner is to make sure that the negotiations are a lot faster. Because the fact that you're part of us already gives you leverage, because we've been already signing deals to these companies. I showed NetEase, for example. We've already signed 2 games to them. And I can't go into detail, but for example. And that's something that you get just by being part of the GTR teams. You'll always have access to the head chickens in every publisher and every VC that we personally know. We, of course, don't know the entire world. It's impossible for me to be friends with 500 publishers. It's not going to happen. I need more staff for that. But on top of the publishing, let's go into, the whole investment strategy of our company, right? So there is always a but. Everything I'm telling you now sounds way too good to be true, because it is way too good to be true. I'm, of course, going to come to the but section of why we do this. Why is our model built this way? As I mentioned, our founder came from a space where he wanted to help startups, and he wanted to make sure that, we were equally leveraged towards the companies and that we were tied to the success of the companies, which means that whenever we make a decision or tell you an advice, it's in your best interest and in ours, because if you don't succeed, we get nothing. Our investments are not large. Again, we're not technically a VC. So our first investment is only 40K USD. The second one is 60, and the third one is 300. So our capacity is about 400K from our own company. That's basically where we come from, with the 2 first investment coming from our own bank and the other 300K coming from our angel groups. So we basically have a group of 20 to 30 business angels that are very fast to make a decision. This year, we have already raised $6 million. And at the end of this year, I'm about to close 2 deals, which is going to put us at 12 million for this year. And for an indie, for indie games, that is very high amounts. And that's basically been the success of this year. I'm hoping to blast out everywhere that I close 12 million this year, but I want to close these last 2 deals first. But anyway, in regards to the angel funding, to give you an example, is in April, I raised an angel round for our German studio, and it took me 7 days from the pitch until they had the money in the bank. That's how fast it can be. And another game, which was now in August, we raised 213K, and that took me 3 weeks. So it depends. And this is not supposed to be a humble brag or anything. The point is that we can raise angel money very quickly if the company does have a very good outlook, because these angels trust us. And to be very clear here, we will not put your game to the angels if we don't think it's ready. We don't just pitch you to the angels because you're part of our company. We invest the first 40 and the second 60 to make sure you're making progress, to show our partners that we believe in you. So if we don't believe in you, you're not being put in front of our angel group, and we'll take our losses and go. When I say take our losses and go, that's not exactly what I mean. I mean that we're going to have to give you more time to prove yourself. But, for the time being, if you come to me and you're like, I need to raise 150K, otherwise, we won't be able to continue in the company, and your game or your pitch is not good enough, then there's nothing we can do. We're not putting the reason I could raise that round in 7 days and in 3 weeks is because they trust us and because we have a track record. The moment I start caring too much and, just putting people in front of them, that's when we lose. And then we're no longer this fast company we claim to be. Now, in terms of VC and other types of partners, we actually have the capacity up to $50 million. So we know so many VCs that we can bring you to. But, not every company needs a VC round, and some are not ready, and it really depends. But this is just an example scale of how we want startups to grow. Now, as an added thing, we're actually raising our own game fund next year. We were supposed to do it this year, but COVID came in, and we're not in any rush. It's basically going to be the third thing that completes our company as one. So yeah, just to show you some VC partners we work with: Colopal Next, Enlight Ventures, Play Ventures, Konami, Makers Fund, NCSoft, LVP, Play Ventures. And that's pretty much the partners that we have. So to go back to this slide very quickly before we go into a quick Q&A, and then I'll jump over to the other company, is that the but here in the scenario is that we have a 10% revenue share on the title. Title only, not company, not every title, not the IP, not sequels, nothing like that. You're never bound to us, and we don't want you to be. We work on a title per title basis. So if you're happy with us, which 46 out of 47 companies have been, then we'll sign the next title and the next title and the next title. So we have a 10% revenue share tied to the product, and only after you've made at least $100,000 at the bare minimum. So we don't take the first money into your bank. That should go to you to pay you and your employees. So that's how we make our money in the short term. Because of course, you being a smaller startup, our equity is not going to matter for 5 years. Like, we're not going to be able to sell out from your company in the next 5 to 7 years. So if we had nothing, we would basically go out of business. And we think personally that all of these terms are super fair for the work we do. Because basically, we become your co-CEO. We do all the biz dev for you. We do all the work for you that you normally pay lawyers for, or external consultants, or agents, or whatever it may be. The difference is that we actually invest in you as well. We give you money to prove to you that we believe in you. And then after that, we help you grow. So that's our model, and that's the but. And the one studio that didn't agree to a second title, by the way, was because they got funded in prototype stage. We do not fund prototypes. So the one thing that the one criteria that we have is that you have at least an MVP. You need to have a build, because if I invest in you now in concept stage, I need to wait 2 years before I bring you to a publisher, or 1 year. As you can tell from this whole presentation, we work fast and we want to make deals quickly. We don't really want to wait 2 years. Then we would honestly just tell you that go work on the product and come back next year and apply again. Because otherwise, I'm just going to sit here, we're going to stare at each other's faces every month and be like, all right, well, cool catching up, nice change log. That's not what we do, right? So we want to make sure that you explode quickly or slowly, depending on what the company strategy is. So again, before I jump into the next thing of G-Round, let me just end up with one final thing so you understand a little bit more about who the team is. So the investment team is actually very small. We're only 4 people in the GTR accelerator, but in total our company is 25. There are only 2 primary decision makers in GTR. You're staring at one of them, and the other guy is a co-founder. So we're the 2 people that you'll be talking to 99% of the time. But mostly it will be 80% me. So I'm the one that'll be working side by side you the whole time. You always have access to our other staff from our other companies. We have community managers, we have a video editor, we have a platform guy. The VC person will be part of helping you evaluate the company. So everyone is always there on the side, but from the day-to-day business, it will be me and the co-founder. And the background, again, of the founder, I told you, for the co-founder, he comes from Samsung and Naver, very corporate, and he comes from the consulting background. Our 4th manager comes from, as well, Naver, as well as Samsung, and his own tech startup. So he's more platform and technology based. And then finally, for me, I'm actually an ex-pro gamer. So I was a pro gamer for 8 years. I did that full-time as a job. But on the side, I had my old consulting gig. So I used to consult some American companies, indie games actually, until they were bought by Garena, and that's how I got connected to Garena. And then that's how I got connected to Tencent, because Tencent bought Garena. So I've been basically a consultant for Garena and Tencent for 10 years, but on top of that, 8. On top of that, I also did all the strategy for Southeast Asia's biggest telecom. So there is a telecom here called Singtel. They own Philippines, they own Thailand, and I did their whole gaming strategy and esports strategy. I've also been a consultant for ESL and a couple of other big companies. So basically, I'm also corporate. But on top of that, I've had my own startups. So I've been CEO of 3 companies. One of them being a startup, I grew from 14 people to 87. So this is what I live for. And normally, I leave companies every 2 years. I don't like to be in the same place. I like a challenge. I like to build stuff and then, let the company run itself, which is the beauty of this company, because here I can stay forever because I get to do it with you guys. I get to help other startups doing what I used to do myself in one single position, in one single company. So that's why I'm here. And I guess that's a little bit of a backstory about myself. And all right, that's GTR. Again, before we jump into a very quick brief on G-Round, does anyone have any questions on what I just said?
I have one.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have seen on your website that you, I don't know the exact word, but you promote Chronos World last year.
Oh, Chronos World.
Yeah, Chronos World. And I've seen many marketing campaign regarding the Kickstarter campaign, and so now I think I understand why it's a performant one, because you are behind, I guess.
Actually, well, I personally am, but not GTR, no. Our second company is behind it.
Okay.
So the second company I'm going to tell you a little bit about is behind the Kickstarter campaign, but the whole business strategy of Chronos Sword, the Kickstarter was my idea, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through GTR, okay.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter is through our other company, but the whole strategic purpose of it, like why we did it and everything, that was me and GTR, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
First, do you only invest on very small companies? Because the amounts you're talking about are quite small.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my second question.
Okay, well, do you want to ask both at the same time? Or
yes, the second one is, do you really think that publishing deals are still that publishing is still the good strategy for developers?
Oh, good questions. Yeah, so for the first question, I mean, again, the money is insignificant, really, for most projects nowadays, especially for European companies. I mean, I'm European myself, right? So, 40K will, not even pay me for a year, right? So it's quite insignificant. But that's not the purpose of the investment, really. The purpose of the investment is to prove that we believe in the company and put skin in the game so that we have something to lose. And then, we come on board and we take care of all the biz dev. So no, the answer is that, well, actually, the answer was yes. We used to only do small companies because we were a very small company and we were a proof of concept, right? The first 2 years, we were testing this out. Is this accelerator model doable? Does it work? Is it a good idea? And then in 2017 is when we got our breakthrough. So we invested in a company that was 2 people that are now 35, and they went from a valuation of $800K to $35 million. So it's a 40 times investment. And we're still working with them, and we still haven't sold out. And that company will be $1 billion company within the next few years. I mark my words on that. So when 2017 came in, and we started getting a lot more buzz and people started hearing a lot more about us, we started expanding and, doing a little bit bigger companies and working with bigger people. Of course, on a valuation basis, it's discussable. But what we do for bigger companies is that we normally sign them. I guess I can go into details. Yeah. So starting this year, actually, is when we started being able to really go for the bigger companies, because we have some companies that have 30 people, Norwegian, and their burn rate is like 3 times our investment, right? And what we do with them instead is that we sign them to something that's called a performance contract. So it means that because our investments are too small, we come in and we take over the biz dev side instead, and we help you close either the fundraising round or the publishing deal with a thing in the back that basically allows us to invest at a much lower valuation if we're successful. So that way we still get our investment done. We get maybe 2 to 5% of your company, whatever, if we succeed. Right. This is a very rare thing, though, and again, we just started this year. And the only reason we can is because of our other company, because with 4 people, this is not doable. Right. But so the answer is yes. Nowadays, we definitely work with much bigger companies. I'm actually about to sign a company which is 30 times bigger than what we normally do. So yes, it's doable. On the second question is that yes and no. It is better to get a publishing deal if you're a nobody. That's our personal recommendation. We don't think it's very easy nowadays for indie developers to have huge success cases. But in the long term, you should absolutely not keep working with publishers. Because the reason for us that we think, as a general saying, it of course depends on who the partner is. But in general, if you're a nobody, you don't have a studio name to yourself, you don't have a big marketing budget, if you work with a publisher on the first title and you prove yourself, you prove what you're capable of developing, you prove what you're capable of doing as a team and as a founder, then for the next title, you can raise a VC round and publish it yourself. You can build your team, you can scale it, and people will already know you from, let's take Dead Cells, for example. Dead Cells was French, right? Wasn't it? I think Dead Cells was French, yeah. Yeah, so Dead Cells is an amazing example, right? It was a tiny indie company, and then basically they just blasted out and had a massive success, and now, they got acquired by, I don't remember, but they got acquired by someone. So we do think that for most indie developers, a publisher is the right way because they don't have the budget to support live ops, they don't have the budget to support localization, QA, and marketing. So launch your first game, prove people what you can do, and then your next pitch deck will be so much better. I had this game, it sold 300,000 copies with the help of, let's say, 505. And now you're making my life so much easier because I can raise money for you very easily if you've proven yourself. The problem is if you haven't done it, it's very hard. So in the long term, self-publishing should always be your goal. Unless you have a very, very strong relationship with a publisher or an IP, for example, we would always recommend to eventually target self-publishing. But when I say self-publishing, just to be very clear, absolutely not self-publishing globally. Going back to the whole idea of just going for a global license or a global territory does not work. So what we do in those cases is that we help you find distribution partners. So we actually know all the physical distributors, we know all the platforms, we know all the stores. So if you're self-publishing, for example, let's say that you have marketing capacity in any EU, we could do one of two things. Either we can sign a publishing deal just for Asia and just for China, for example, or we can sign distribution deals where, they take the risk and they send it out and then you split the revenue. So we can design those terms in many different ways. Or we can do a store exclusive deal in Russia, for example. I'm very good friends with Mail.ru, so I know them like in and out. And for example, they're looking for games for their store. So it might just be that you don't know how to market to Russians, so why even bother? Why spending 100K in a country you don't know what to do with, right? So then we sign a store deal in Russia, and then you continue self-publishing in the rest of the world, right? So that's normally how we phrase it. So our aim is for every one of our companies to eventually self-publish, with us helping the distribution side, with us helping taking care of other territories. Because again, yes, I am white, but our company is originally Asian. So we are much stronger in Asia right now. Since I came on board, we are building out more and more in CIS and NAEU. And of course, we have all the contacts in every publisher and every investor, but contacts and good buddies are two very different things, For example, if I go to EU now and I meet with Tencent, they'll be like, who the fuck is this guy? They've never seen me, don't know who I am. If I go to China, I'll be like, hey, let's go drinking, right? So we are also still growing. We're also still expanding. So it's important that, we do that all over the world. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, thanks a lot.
Perfect. Anyone else? Alexis? Yeah.
Yeah, hi, thank you for the presentation. I've two questions too. The first one is about the platform, mobile, console, and PC.
Mm-hmm.
Have you a preference about the platform? Have you any best choice, about the platform? I think the mobile is the tenants, the goal, the most investment gets on mobile. So have you a preference? Do you have a preference?
So personally, I fucking hate mobile games. That's the reality. That's just me. But the answer to your question is no, we don't have a preference, because the thing is that at the end of the day, everything is a business. And for example, if you guys are familiar with the game Strike of Kings, the biggest mobile game in the world, it's called Honor of Kings in China. I worked on that game. So you see, it's not always about what you prefer, right? So in reality, there is no preference on platform as an investor. The difference is that when we're evaluating a PC and a console game, it's a lot easier because, it's the gameplay, it's the forecast, it's your target market and everything. While on mobile, I give zero shits who you're targeting because I only care what your data is. If your data is bad, you're not getting anywhere. And the reality is, so does every publisher and investor think. So, I'll give you a great example. I had a mobile game, which is honestly one of the best pitches I've ever read. And the game is super fun. And I hate mobile games, yeah? I love the game. I think it's amazing. But, the data is just not there. So it didn't matter how many publishers I pitched. They all just told me that, awesome game, love it, data sucks, goodbye. And that is the gaming industry, right? So, and also the whole potential of mobile games, which is why, like you said, the mobile games are fundraising a lot heavier. They're getting a lot more money because there is a lot more potential in mobile, but there's a lot more competition as well. So it's easier to evaluate PC console, and we do have more PC console investments for that reason. Because, again, I speak to publishers on a weekly basis. I know that they don't care about your game at all on mobile. They literally don't care at all. They only want to see your data. And for that makes, my job very hard because there are mobile games that I look at and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And then I look at the pitch deck and it says like 20% day one retention. And I'm like, all right, well, pitch gone. Goodbye. I don't even look at it again. There's no point. So yeah, we do everything really. I would like to have more mobile games. This year we tried to find more, but just to give you a number, out of the top 20 this year, only 3 are mobile. That's the sad reality.
Okay, yeah, that's a good stat.
Yeah, and that's not because we don't want to invest in mobile. It's because the games weren't good enough. Like the mobile games didn't have enough data. And the thing is, mobile studios is a lot of maintenance. It's a lot of money that's required to be invested. And improving data is no easy feat. So, if your day one retention after 3 years of development is 20%, I'm not going to be inclined to believe you're going to make it 40 in the next 6 months. Right? What was your second question? Or did I answer the second?
Yeah, didn't ask. I'm sorry. The second question was about the core team. What's your advice about the core team? Right now, I'm sorry, I'm talking about my studio, but right now I'm a solo developer, and my team is growing. We are about to become five people right now. But yeah, I have 100% of my company. So yeah, do I have to find co-founder, or do I have to grow my core team and to go to the top 20?
Yeah, good question. No, so we try to not invest in single developers anymore, but it's not an anti. It's because we've worked with some single developers, and the problem when you're a single developer is that you are not too receptible to feedback because you have an ego and you have no one to bounce your ego off. Yeah. So you're like you're sitting there in your room or in your office and you're like, okay, how do I improve the game? And then the only opinion you have is yourself and maybe some family and friends. So we try to stray away from it, but one of our most successful companies was a single developer. It's going to be public next year who the publisher is, but it's one of the biggest publishers in the world. And he started as a single, and when we signed this deal for him, now he's 2 people. Okay. So it is not a no. But in terms of like a strategy for you, just as general advice, is that yes, you should 100% find a co-founder. And if you haven't found any money already, then getting like some angel investment or getting a strategic investor on board does bump up your company value or the board that you will have. But yeah, generally we always say that even if you're a one-man developer and you think that that's a good idea and you're investing your own money, find someone with a similar passion as you that can add value, of course, that will make your whole prospect a lot better, and give him some shares. Well, him or her, of course. Give him or her some shares, and or if you don't want to, give them an incentive, like, or a performance basis where they get some, or even ask for some money to invest in a project so you share the risk. Definitely recommend, but please do not do the standard 2 founders 50-50. It's one of the worst setups you can have in a company structure. Yeah, I just came off a call before this one where there was 3 founders at 33% each. That's a nightmare for investors. It's like 2v1. And it's not a good structure. No.
Yeah, I get it. I'm aware of that. Thank you so much.
No. Anyone else has a question? Nope. Oh, here we go. Oh, VR. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. What would it take to offer a VR game to GTR? For example, a demo already liked on Steam with 100K downloads. Don't say sorry. I'm just kidding. Like, I don't mind. I actually love VR. I think it's amazing. I was part of a VR game myself 3 years ago. It's not that we don't like it. It's the fact that the commercial aspect is too small. So it's very hard to measure success. For example, there is a Finnish studio, which name I've forgotten now, that had a mining game, and it had like 2 million downloads, but what was the revenue? Less than the investment. So it's just not a very good business prospect. But again, doesn't mean that we won't say yes to it. If it's really, really cool, why not? We had a VR game last year called Real VR Fishing, which was very innovative. They basically did like a live filming of lakes and of fishing and implemented it into the game, so it feels like you're actually there in person. Like the graphics are beautiful, and then they had made their own rod, and the rod feels like I'm being pulled by the fish. So that was really cool. So there is no answer to what would it take. Show us the game, we're gonna play it. We have VR headsets in the office, and we'll take a look at it. But again, I very much doubt that your forecast will be more than $2 million in revenue, and the investment required to bring your game to that level is usually like $500,000 to $1 million, which means that me as an equity investor, I'm not getting my return for like 5 more years, because if I invest $500,000 in your company as equity, for example, and you make $2 million, and you need to pay back all the development funding, maybe even a publisher, and then you need to do dividends, and I'm owning a minority share in your company, I'm not getting anything, right? But it's definitely projects that is interesting for project funding. So if you're a VR game, I recommend you look for project funding, because they're just going to recoup their amount plus maybe 2 or whatever your deal is, and that is more likely for you to find. Yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll jump into G-Round quickly, just to give you guys, we have like 6 minutes left, but I'll explain quickly what we're doing on the other side. Any final questions, guys? Or I'll jump over. Give it 20 seconds. Okay.
I'm sorry. Last question. For the next year, do you know when we could apply for the next session?
No, because COVID.
Yeah.
Normally our conference is in September or October, and it's actually very annoying that we had to push it to January, and now it's not happening anyway. So usually in early Q4, and the actual application period is 2 to 3 months before that. So usually we open the applications in July or August, and then after that we do the conference in early Q4.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm sure the organizers of this can share with you my email, and I always read my email, and you end up in my database. So if you pitch to me now, and then in 8 months, I look at your game again, watching the progress, that really helps you. So, I still review projects within the break period, so to speak. It's just that after the new fresh 10 investments, 80% of my time is dedicated to them, right? Because I'm making deals to them. So I don't have a lot of time to review external projects, but I still do. And luckily now with our second company, I've hired a much bigger team. So my personal team is 15 people now, and it used to be 1. So there is more capacity to test the games. And that's, basically what I'm going to show you now, what we have been building on the other side here.
Thank you.
I'm going to just run through this very quickly since we're almost running out of time. Okie dokie. All right, so as I mentioned, we have a holding company called GXC, our investment/accelerator. You just heard the full explanation. Now, we always do products or ideas that doesn't exist in the market yet. When GTR, there's no other accelerator like us, and same thing comes from G-Round. So we try to find holes in the market and fill those gaps within a unique product. And that's basically how G-Round came to fruit. So one problem that every developer has right now is that they do not know where their game is going to be successful. And neither does the publisher, regardless of how much money they have. Now, the difference is that the publisher has a frick ton of money, and they do focus groups for $10,000 to $30,000 per country if they're AAA, or a little bit less if they're like AA or indie. or maybe they'll hire some beta testing service. But ultimately, there's no one that can do a global test with a bunch of different people from all over the world to try and help you understand what your target customer is going to be. And the game that I worked on, Honor of Kings or Strike of Kings, Arena of Valor, whichever name you want to use, the one from Tencent, that's a great example because they launched in Southeast Asia and it's by far the biggest game of all time, like over here. Well, Free Fire is kind of coming in now as well, but still. And in EU, we don't care about this game at all. It's like, who the hell plays this game in EU, right? And Garena invested many, many millions of dollars in marketing in EU. But the fact is, it's the wrong target market. So even AAA publishers are having this issue that in advance, they don't know where to go. So we saw that hole and we tried to figure out, how can we actually fix this problem? So, I don't even know why I'm showing you my deck. Why don't I just show you the website? That's much easier. Because the product wasn't ready when we made the deck. So let's just show you. So basically, we had that in mind and we thought, okay, how can we actually, make this happen on a global scale? So that's how G-Run was born. The idea is very simple. There are 3 ways for you to test your game. Number 1 is that you come to us and you upload it to the platform with a prototype or an MVP. And you basically figure out, is this game worth investing money into, or do you scrap it? Because a lot of developers, they have too much of a high ego, and even they've been, I've invested 12 months of my time and $200,000, and I need to finish it for another year, and then you lose another $200,000 and another year of your time when the game is doomed to fail. That's number 1. Number 2 is that, you might be a little bit unclear about where you want to go next, what your production schedule should look like, what other features you want to implement, or, if you want to specifically target France, what do French people like? That's the second thing. The third one, which is the reason we made the platform, is the market insight. We want developers and publishers to understand their markets way before they actually come in and launch it. So that means, that when they upload the game on our platform, we'll have a couple of hundred or even thousand of people from every major gaming market in the world. So there's 50, well, technically there's 20, but let's say 50 of the medium to large size gaming markets in the world. Which ones are you going to have the highest amount of success in? Again, to this point, right now, you go to events. That's what most indie developers do. You test your product locally. You have like 100 to 500 walk-ins to play it, and then you look at their reactions. Well, what if you could do all of this digitally to every country for a fraction of the cost? Go into GDC, having a booth, unless your government sponsors it, or unless you have some other kind of deal, you're spending $10,000, $15,000 in that event. When in fact, you could spend that on this platform and get way better results with a lot bigger amount of user base. So the game gets uploaded on our platform. It's live right now, gamerun.co. And for example, we'll take Chronosword here, because you guys mentioned Chronosword before. And me as a developer, you have your own page here. You can even see that we implemented Kickstarter into the actual platform. And you can see, the trailer, the description of the game, the screenshots, and you can see all of the founding members. The reason we have the founding members there is because you guys are looking for interns. And if I'm a user and I want to intern in a game developer, I have your name here. I reach out on LinkedIn and I said, hey, I saw your game on G-Round. So we want people to know who are the people behind the studio. On top of that, we of course have a comment section where people can just, talk about it. You can see here that Chronosword in particular is very active. We also have influencers who come to the platform. So we partnered with 20 big influencers with over 8 million subscribers and followers in the world that we are not paying. That sounds weird, right? We're not paying them to market your game. We're not paying them to sell your game or increase your wish list. We are paying them a very small amount to just play your game and be honest. No scripts, no restrictions. They can literally say that Chronosword is the worst game in the world and they won't be breaking our contract. Because we want you to understand, what does a Filipino streamer, Korean streamer, a Swedish streamer think about your game, and what does their Twitch chat think about it, or their YouTube chat think about it, right? So these guys just stream on their own accord. They come on the platform. The only deal we have is that, they take a look at it, they play it, and they say what they think. And then every single user can actually see the clips here on the on-air section. And in the future, the live streams will be implemented here as well, so you can watch them live if you want to. I don't know why how do I mute this Teams, goddammit. I'm already do not disturb. Svet, what is this? Okay. Teams is trolling me here. But yeah, so on top of basically uploading the game on the platform, I'm just gonna turn off Teams. There we go. So on top of uploading the game on the platform, we give you an SDK to integrate into your game. Now this SDK is fully customizable. What that means is that you can actually do the minimal integration, or you can do the absolute full integration. So what that means is that the minimal integration simply cross-checks what user ID in your game is the user on G-Round. So we can figure out who is who, right? Because otherwise we can't actually track that. So you'll only have a bunch of different people from different countries. Other than that, we can support up to literally thousands of integrations, such as, you know, what items people are picking up, what heroes are they doing, all the basic Unity and Unreal stuff, retention, you know, like what's the gameplay session timing, all of this. So we have a third party that we work with. I'm not going to go into detail because it will take too long, that can track anything that you want to do within your game. So you get the basic gameplay data from the users, and again, you can implement it in an hour or 2 weeks, whatever you want. After that, the actual website itself supports a more in-depth Steam review. So we've already did a focus group ourselves before we launched the platform, of course, to take a look at, you know, what do publishers want, what do developers want. And we have 10 very quick to answer questions. And after that, there is basically a small additional feedback tab down here where people can add a simple comment. So this gives you a general Metacritic/Steam score with your current build. So we emphasize what stage is the game at, so people don't come in and expect the full game. They don't come in and expect like the best build ever. They'll be aware, is it a prototype? Is it a vertical slice? What is the stage at? And they'll review it accordingly. And from the feedback and the focus groups we did, every publisher and developer said this is so much better than, you know, Steam Greenlight and Steam Greenworks or whatever they call themselves nowadays. And it's just a different kind of thing. And after the review, we go into the survey period. So the survey period is, you know, completely customizable. You can ask, so Chronosaur, they asked, what input device did you use? What was satisfying? You know, what was the most unique? What do you want to improve? What's the combat like? All customizable, 5 to 10 questions. We can replace them. We can do this over and over. Now, the coolest thing about this is on top of getting, you know, the actual gameplay feedback through the SDK, on top of getting the reviews, on top of getting the surveys, and, you know, actually being part of our Discord community where you can chat live with all the people, you're going to get a, 1 second here. You're going to receive a report card that you can then present to publishers and investors. So all of the data that you actually get, you can take and include in your pitch. So we design a very simple report card for you where we include all the data. So this was our proof of concept. This was our first ever game that we put on the platform to make sure that, you know, we're not wasting our time and money, right? And you can see here that we include the top 10 countries, the amount of page views, the unique, of course. And then we go into how many downloads, what are the genders, what are the age groups, and what is the actual feedback. So this game, with a 30-minute build, ended up getting like an average of like an 8.2 out of 10. That's crazy good. So people absolutely loved it. And the only thing they didn't like was the story part. And the thing was, the story wasn't even implemented. So, I mean, okay, we know that already, no problem. And then we handpick positive and negative reviews because we personally think it's important to show investors and publishers what the issues are with your game as well, so that they know what you're going to do to resolve them. Because if you don't tell it to them up front, they're going to come back to you anyway and being like, how are you going to solve A, B, and C? Them knowing it in advance makes your pitch stronger. So this report card can then be presented, again, to any single person. On top of that, you, of course, get all the raw feedback as well. So you get every review, every survey in a spreadsheet format that you can use at any point in time as you wish. So who are the users, I'm sure you're asking? The users are regular people, and it's hardcore gamers, and it's mid-core gamers. Our goal is to have a very broad perspective of different types of audiences and a general overview of the country. We're not a beta testing platform. We're not asking them to make documents to help you. We just want an overview of what does Russia think? What does Korea think? What does Sweden think? From all the different types of hardcore and mid-core and casual gamers as a whole. Because that will allow you to understand which are your top markets. Now, once you understand your top 3 to 5 markets, now you can go to the publisher and be like, look at this. I know that Koreans will love my game. And for you, Benoit, who said basically self-publishing, you now know that your game will be successful in Korea. You probably have no idea how to publish your game in Korea. So why not sub-license it to a Korean publisher? And you can prove to them with data that the game is going to work. So it's no longer just you saying like, oh, I think the game might work in Korea, or the art style is good for Korea. You have data to back it up. So it allows you to easier sub-license it into other territories. So yeah, this is something we've been building for a very long time. It's finally live, and actually you guys can apply right now because we're giving out some free slots. So that's Svit here. I also work on G-Round, but I'm on the strategy side, so I'm not on the day-to-day. Svitz here is on the day-to-day. So if you guys have games that you want to get tested, we're currently giving out some free slots. Again, because even though our product works right now, it's really good for us, it's not perfect yet. So we're giving out some free slots to select government studios only. So it's government partners. And yeah, if you get picked, then you get a chance to get tested, and we can use this data to improve the service.
Yeah, I just want to add to that I've sent the link of the Google form for the submission. If you have a PC game that is in quite ready stage, so let's say about 45 minutes, an hour of game time, we only support Unity and Unreal, so no other engines for now. And if the user landing is good, the game is quite at a good user landing, and we can gather some data to support the game, that will be highly likely that we take it in and it gets a green light. So feel free to submit your game, and we have 1 slot remaining for December, and we have probably 5 for January. So everything is free for now.
And then after that, everything will go into full paid. So there's only 6 slots left, and after that, it's a fully paid service. And I'm sure you're wondering how much, probably. So it's definitely too expensive for indie developers. We're aware of that. So currently, the smallest package is $10,000, which guarantees 2,000 players, 200 reviews, and 100 surveys. So of course, there's minimum KPIs. It also guarantees 4 influencers minimum that plays your game and gives you VODs and everything. But we are working on an indie package, which we're trying to finalize right now. So we're hoping we can figure out a model where the indie package might be $5K or something like that for about 1,000 testers from different countries. But we're also considering other models where instead of paying us upfront, we can do a recoupment model where, if you get a deal or a publisher or an investor after you've been on the platform, you can pay us back then. This is going to be a very small select few studios that we really believe in, because otherwise, way too much accounting work and running around asking you, did you get an investment yet? Did you get a publisher yet? It's a nightmare, right? So it might be like 5 to 10 games per year. And I'm sure, basically on the platform, there will be 200 games per year, 4 games per week. Right now, during the alpha stage, it's 2 games per week only. Any questions on G Round, guys? I think that's we already went 10 minutes overtime, so I think we can, yeah. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yep.
What stage should be the game should be in what stage? For example, we have one launched game with several 100,000 downloads, and we want to raise money to accelerate this game. Isn't it too late for such for G-Round?
So yes and no. We generally prefer games that haven't launched yet, but in theory, we could target the markets that you want to figure out. Yes. So we could put the game on the platform and figure out, the other markets that you haven't targeted yet, whether or not it's a good idea. As you can see here, that's why I shared my screen again. Actually, the build can be super early to just about to launch to just recently launched. And we've already had publishing clients on the platform that have been doing it at all these different stages as well. And as you can see here, there's the booster crowdfunding, that's the Chronosword, of course. So anything is really doable, but it depends on how long it's been out, right? But I mean, that sounds good. From what I'm understanding, you're a much larger studio, and it seems like you have a couple of 100K downloads and you're raising money. So send me an email. We can talk separately. You can send me over your pitch. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, guys? Oh, G-Round VR ready? Actually, one of our management team really wants VR to be ready soon. I personally don't ever want us to have VR for the next 12 months because the sad reality is that, and this is why I don't personally like VR, is that it's just too expensive. I mean, I live in Thailand, right? This country is like a fucking gold mine for me because I'm European, I'm white, and this here is super cheap. That's the reality, right? And the problem is that you as a VR game will never be successful in Southeast Asia. You'll never be successful in Latin America because none of them can afford a VR headset. And our platform is supposed to be a tool where you can test the whole world. But if you come to us with a VR game, we can't offer you Southeast Asia, we can't offer you Latin America, and a couple of other third world countries. So as much as I would like to bring you on board to make money as a service, it wouldn't feel good in my heart to tell you that, pay me to give you market insights, because I actually couldn't give it to you, So until VR is more affordable, I don't think we'll have it on the platform, or at least I'm one of 4 opinions here. So we're a 4 management team. So I'm always going to be against VR on G-Round because until VR is cheaper. But we have another guy who's 100% for VR, and then we have 2 people in the middle. So we'll see. Ultimately, it's a democracy between the 4 of us. So we'll see what we decide. But actually, I don't know. Technically, we could do like a small test in our Discord server or something if the game is super cool. But it wouldn't be officially on the platform yet. Yeah, VR needs to be cheaper, man. That's the reality. I really look forward to the day it is because I love VR. Like, it's so cool to play, but as a business prospect, it's so hard to evaluate. I've had so many cool VR pitches. When I was in Canada last year for Mega Mix, there was this VR game where you sit on a horse and you do like a real life. Jousting, is that what it's called? Like the medieval thing where you run 2 horses run to each other and you smack someone off. So they built like an arcade model of this game where you sit on a horse and it tosses you off. Super, super cool. I loved it. That was like so exciting. But then he was like, "Oh yes, are you interested?" And I was like, "Sorry, no. I mean, I don't see how are you going to commercialize this? There's no way you're going to be shipping horses all over the world." And arcade is not a big enough business model at the moment for VR where it's going to be profitable. So as much as I love the game, no. But the real VR fishing game, for example, is very good because it's an Oculus Quest game. People can just buy the game digitally and play the fishing game in their home. And if you don't have the fishing rod, you can still play it without the fishing rod. So yeah, for them, it was that was a good VR pitch. That's why we picked them. But yeah, I mean, again, guys, I'm biased, man. I'm the wrong person to ask because when it comes to VR, I actually exclude myself from the conversation. So, again, we're 4 people who pick the games. Whenever it's a VR game, I don't even bother reviewing it because I will just be negative and say no. So that's why I let the other 3 decide when it's a VR game. That's only fair, Any other questions? Can be GTR related to you guys or something else. I mean, I can stay for another 5 minutes if you want to ask anything about, investors or publishers or smaller questions. Go ahead. Am I still sharing? Oh, there we go. Okay. Anything, guys? Otherwise, I'm gonna head out to cook dinner at 7 p.m. here.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all right. Okay. Well, in that case, guys,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'll just put my email here in the chat. So if it's GTR related, so yeah, Benoit, if you can send me over your pitch, and if it's G-Round related, you send it to this guy, the Svit guy right there. And
you can just send it to the form, and I'll contact you back if you get the green light.
Okay. Sounds good, guys. Very happy to speak to you, and hope to hear from some of you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.